Hey guys, check out the new episode, the new podcast. Appreciate you guys. Just remember, if you guys want a podcast, there's no better way to do it than Anchor. Number one, it's free. Everybody loves free. Free. And then you can also record and edit your podcast right here and not have to go anywhere else. And Anchor will also distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. So, guys, definitely, if you're looking to podcast, use Anchor. Love you guys. Hey, guys, welcome to another episode of the Vertical Momentum. This is our new podcast where we are interviewing people that are changing the world one person at a time. I want to thank our sponsor because he's a friend of both of ours, Mr. Mark Dudek of CSD Hardscaping. He has a book out also. You need to check him out. And if you ever need anything done in your backyard, he's the man to do it. He will actually fly out, do the work, and then head back home. That's the kind of guy that he is. Guys, today is a special treat for me. This is only the second episode on Vertical Momentum. And this gentleman is a great friend. I call him more of a brother than a friend. He's been through a lot. We both have traumatic brain injuries, and he's going to talk to you through it. His name is Mike Ryan. He has an amazing book out. So welcome to the show, my brother. How are you?
Hey, Richard. How's it going?
Oh, man, life is so good, brother. You?
Oh, can't complain.
So what you got going on today?
Well, I I'm off today, so I've just been laying around all day long. I had my second COVID shot yesterday, and I had a little bit of a reaction to it, not too bad, but kind of wore me down a bit. So I just, you know what, I decided I'm going to be lazy today. I'm going to order some pizza, and I'm going to hang out, watch some TV, and just relax.
There you go. And then me and you get to hang out for a little bit. So that worked for me.
Absolutely.
So now tell us a little bit about what state you were born in, where you were raised.
So born in San Diego, California. That's where I reside now. I was born May 2nd, 1971. So I'll be hitting my 50th birthday here pretty soon.
And what kind of little boy was Michael?
I think overall I was a pretty good kid. I wouldn't say rambunctious, but let's call me curious. Tend to get into stuff I wasn't supposed to, as a kid growing up. Paid for it quite a bit with my mom. My mom's full-blood Sicilian, so I didn't get away with much, but I tried. But I loved being a kid growing up. I had fun being a kid. It was no strawberries. I can tell you that right now, from my upbringing. But we made the best of what we had.
Now, my wife is Sicilian, and the last name Ryan does not sound Sicilian.
Dad was Irish Native American.
Okay, I was just trying to make sure you didn't leave out a couple of vowels there.
My mother's last name, maiden name is Corleone.
Oh wow, Corleone, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. So she mobbed up, or you can't say?
No, we're good.
So now, how was high school? Now you were an athlete all through high school?
I was pretty much an athlete growing up. I played, little league, little league baseball. Played a lot of street football. Didn't really get into organized football until I got to high school. So yeah, I was a 3-sport athlete. Going into my 9th and 10th grade year, and football was what I wanted to excel at.
Now, growing up in the California area, were you a Chargers or were you an LA fan?
I was a Charger fan.
So LT was the man back then?
See, LT came out in the early 2000s. When I was coming up, I graduated high school in '89, so I didn't follow football that much. I think we had the Train James was the running back then, and we had Dan Fouts in the '80s, Kellen Winslow, and in the '90s is when I started watching when they had their Super Bowl run. against San Francisco. That's
So
why I really kind of came into my own with football. I was a little bit of a late bloomer, but always kind of watched a bit. But I was more of a player than somebody who sat and watched it on Sundays.
now, we're going to talk about traumatic brain injuries. Junior Seau was one of my favorite players of all time.
Yeah.
He played for San Diego, and he killed himself because he had a CTE, and it could be caused from starting with TBI. But we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Sure.
So now, tell us about the day that changed your life.
So my sophomore year, ninth grade was kind of crappy for me for football. I came in late, didn't start, got out there for a couple plays once in a while. I applied myself going into my sophomore year. I was going to get a starting position, and I was going to try to shoot for varsity. And unfortunately, the varsity position didn't happen, but I had, starting position, 3 starting positions in JV. And I trained hard that summer going into it, running stairs, lifting weights. I was determined. It was going to be a good year for me. I felt great. My speed was getting there. And I think one of the things that kept me from varsity was my slow 40, which I never got a chance to run again. I got a bad footing. So I'll use that one to the day I die. That had a bad footing on that one. But yeah, so I trained really hard and I was ready for football. And
now, what position were you playing?
Say that again.
What position were you playing?
I played outside linebacker. I played guard, and then I was on special teams, which is how I got injured.
Okay, so tell us about the play.
So we were getting towards the end of the game. We were winning, and I was playing. I was having a good game. I was playing hard. I was on the very far side of the field, and we kicked off. We had just scored. I'm running down the field and I do a cross in. You cross into the middle part of the field, and I was looking to put a hit on anybody that had the ball or was in the way of the ball carrier. And I came up on this individual, and he was shorter than I was. And as soon as I got to him, he squatted and then drove his helmet right into my chin, and blew me back. Just hit me and rattled my head big time. And I stumbled back about several yards, never hit the ground. And then my head started pounding like crazy. It was the worst pain I had ever felt. I don't think I've ever had a headache, and I've had some pretty bad headaches, but I don't think I've had a headache that bad. So then I ran off the field, went to the sideline, told coach, I can't go out. My head's. And then I started having the issues from a hemorrhage, which we didn't know until they finally got me to the hospital.
So tell us about, because some of the people listening are going to be, they might have kids that are playing sports. They might have, they might be playing sports themselves. Even, as we get older, we still believe that we're 25 years old and we can still get our bell rung.
Absolutely.
So, tell some of us what the feelings were, what you was going through in your body and your mind.
Well, so I took the first initial hit, and I knew something was wrong. My head was killing me so badly. I ran off the sidelines, and like I said, I told coach I can't go out. I was pacing up and down the sidelines, and the head was just killing me. And the assistant coach thought I was having a concussion. He just kind of grinned and said, "Oh, you just got a concussion." But then I started losing feeling in my left leg, and that's kind of where kind of all hell broke loose, so to speak. Is once I said, "Coach, my leg is falling asleep. It's falling asleep. I can't." I'm starting to limp around, and that was the result of the bleed putting pressure on that side of the brain that was causing the left side of my body to go to sleep. So they sat me down, laid me on the bench, kept me moving. They never had an ambulance on the field, which back then they only had one usually during varsity games. And so the whole time I'm laying there, my symptoms are getting worse and worse and worse. And I kept hearing this loud noise from, it's like, when you think about getting your bell rung, it was loud. Like I can't even describe it. It was painful. And I was losing my hearing a little bit. I was laying there on the bench, and I felt my leg just drop off the bench, and I couldn't, I was just dead at that moment. And I started going into a little bit of a paralysis. And I could hear my coach, the head coach, Coach Stone, kept looking over at me. And first, before all that stuff went down, he kept checking my pupils. I kept telling him I was having these issues. He kept checking my pupils, and then I started having all these other issues. Everything was starting to fall asleep. And they kept moving me around. I kept talking, but my speech was slurred. So that's the one thing to look out for is slurred speech, any kind of paralysis, bad headache. Those are the uh, from a hemorrhage that you're gonna you'll find when someone has one that they got to bleed. Slurred speech is definitely one of those. So watch out for that. And they finally got an ambulance there. It took a little while because they didn't know what was wrong with me. I guess they held the firemen they saw close to the air game in San Diego, and guy came over, and I started to kind of wake back up, and they saw my eyes roll back, and I passed out, and they knew something was really, really wrong. So they finally got an ambulance there, rushed me to Scripps Memorial in La Jolla. The best hospital that we got out here, best service that we had at the time, and I spent 6 hours in surgery, my first surgery, trying to stop the bleeding. Doctor kept coming out telling my family that I probably wasn't going to make it through that surgery. So I had a very slim chance of getting through, and luckily the doctor took some aggressive procedures and got the bleeding to stop, closed me up, and that was one of probably half a dozen surgeries I went through in that time I was there at the hospital.
Now you were in the hospital for all total of like 3 months, right?
Right around maybe just shy of 3 months. I got hurt October 2nd. I think I finally left the hospital, including rehab, towards the very end of December. And then I had some complications about a month and a half later, which I was in the hospital for 2 more weeks. And then after I graduated high school, 2.5 years later, I opted to have a surgery to put a plate in my head, because when I had the surgery, they had to relieve the pressure so skull, so that way if I had some swelling, it had a room to go somewhere. And a lot of swelling. So yeah, all in all, I was in the hospital. That was an elective surgery after I graduated. I wanted to have that done. I was in the hospital probably about 4 days, 3-4 days on that one. And I had that surgery following Monday after I graduated high school.
So what was it like? Take me to the moment when, because, I'm sure that the doctors told you that you were never going to play again. Of course, us being hard-headed guys, we're like, yeah, I'll play again. No big deal. But what was it like when you had to sit down at that moment and think, man, my playing days are over?
All the doctors, well, a few of the doctors that came and checked on me told me that, contact sports pretty much out for you. My mom was like, hell no, you're never playing again. The coaches were like, yeah, he's not going to ever play. He's never going to play again. But the funny thing is my surgeon actually said to me, he said, Mike, he said, your injury was pretty much he goes, at first they thought I had an enlargement of the sinus veins that ran up the back of your head, that which was one of the veins that blew was a sinus vein that was underneath your skull and ran up the back of your head. They thought I had a birth defect. They said I was basically a walking time bomb. But what ended up being was just a microscopic birth defect. So that doctor, my surgeon, was the only one that said, if you wanted to play football again, you probably could. And my mom was like, nope, not gonna happen. So I luckily I got all my feeling back. I got healthy. I was able to work out, run, lift weights, build my body back up, and normal life. School was tough for me, regardless of the head injury or not, but it was a little bit more difficult for me because everything was more labored. I was a lot more exhausted. But yeah, I was very upset. I was depressed for a while, not being able to. You're a kid in high school. I mean that's everything to a teenager. Being able to live that kind of you want to be in the limelight. You want people cheering for you. And when that's gone, it's kind of like, well, now I'm just a regular high school kid, and I'm kind of nothing. So you can imagine the depression that settled in when all that went down. So, but you know what? Hey, look, I got through it. I focused my energy elsewhere, and just moved on.
So, obviously, you're like me, and you have an amazing bride, and you have an amazing life now. And I remember the day when we got in touch with each other, and you said, "You know what? I'm going to write my book." And we helped each other, get our books out. So, what was writing your book like? Tell us about, because a lot of people think you write a book and you're just putting stuff on paper. But sometimes when you're writing a book, you peel back a lot of the onions.
Well, for me, it was, and I use these words loosely, but I mean, I guess it works. It was cleansing for me. There were times where I was typing and I'd be in tears, and I mean, it's difficult to talk about even right now. We're not even sitting face to face, but I mean, it was an awakening moment for me, because for many years I've had people say, you should write a book. And then when I even started bringing it up on Facebook way back when, the early 2000s, when Facebook first started kicking off and started friends and everybody meeting a bunch of people, everybody's like, man, Mike, when are you going to write that book? And I just kept letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. Then I celebrated my 30th anniversary for my injury. And I was like, you know what? I need to make a commitment here, because I'm coming up on the 35th year in October. And then, lo and behold, Mark, put us two together, and I believe it was.
Yeah.
And, you and I just kind of like resonated with each other. I mean, look, I didn't get a chance to serve in the military because of my head injury. But my whole family on my dad's side did. And so I'm a product of veterans. So, who had PTSD and survived an explosion and just was a wreck, So for me, I can't relate to actually being there, but for me, that was my football playing days was my claim to fame. So, when I was writing that book and I'm putting things down about my dad, my family, and my wife and kids and everything now, it was like, man, I was overcome with emotion because of the fact that I can't believe I'm sitting here actually writing my own book. And if it was you, and I think Mark and you kind of giving me my motivation. I've got some really close friends and people in my life, and you guys kind of help motivate me to get me over that hump. And when you talked about writing your book, I was like, and we started becoming friends. I was like, you know what, man, I got to do this. So you know what I did? I just got on my computer one day, and I think I pulled up Microsoft Word. I actually went to a website called Fast Pencil. I was going to do it there, but then I decided I'll just do it through Microsoft. And I started typing, started creating chapters, and I just started writing and rewriting and fixing things. I started from the beginning in order from childbirth to the end. And my book, you see my book, it's small. That's not a long read. And it wasn't meant to be a very long read. It was meant to get to the point.
But it's a great read.
And I appreciate that. Thank you. And so is your book. I appreciated reading that very much. So that's what did it for me. I think a couple close people in my life, like yourself and Mark and my other friends and family, started getting behind me and started saying, and I was like, you know what? It is times 30 plus years in the making. So let's do it. I just sat down and just started going. Mission like that, it's very rare that I have those moments of greatness. I just kept going and going and going every day. I probably had the book completely finished from start to finish, probably within a week or two, just because it came in after work and I would spend, a little bit writing. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do it. You just have to apply yourself to do it. So
now, what is the name of your book? I know what it is, but they don't know what it is.
It's called The Heart of the Lion by Michael Ryan. It's The Heart of the Lion, A Journey Back from Traumatic Brain Injury by Michael Ryan. If you just look up The Heart of the Lion on Amazon, which it's at right now, you're not going to find it. You have to make sure you put my name in there, by Michael Ryan. The Heart
Yeah,
of
and
the Lion.
in the show notes, I'll put a link to where where they can get it and pick it up.
Great. Yeah.
A lot of people when they think, okay, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to put it on Amazon, and I'm going to sell a crap load of copies, and they don't realize as soon as you write a book how expensive it can be to get edited,
Right.
And that just because it's on Amazon doesn't mean you're going to sell a single copy. So tell us about the work that it took to get it edited, put it on Amazon, and then what work it took to get it out into the people's consciousness.
Yep.
So what was that like? Tell us your story.
Oh, okay. So I went the inexpensive route, and well, my editor was a little bit pricey for what I got. Because I found some flaws in the book after he was done, so lesson learned on that. I went to two separate people, and the other guy that put it up on Amazon was a friend of yours who you set me up with, which was awesome. He set up my Facebook page, which of the Lion on Facebook. That page needs to be redone. It's kind of when I sign into it, it's a little bit fun. I have to revamp it a bit. So here nor there, and that cost me a couple $100. It wasn't a whole lot. I think I got out on the cheap. I think I paid in total, because people are going to wonder how much did you pay for everything. I think I paid probably about $1,000 out of pocket, which probably sounds like a lot, but really isn't. If I was to go through one of these professional publishing companies, it would have cost me $4 or $5 grand. I have a cousin that wrote a book about her son, and I'm drawing a blank on it right now. They had the word Christ or whatever, and she's got a son that's disabled, and she wrote a book about that. It was an awesome book, and she sold thousands of copies. I mean, she made a lot of money off that going through this one company. But like I said, I didn't want to spend 4 or 5. They got behind and put the legwork in and publish the book. So if you have the money, go with a big publishing company and let them back it. But if you don't, then there's other ways to do it. But then you got to do all the legwork. You got to set up speaking events, which I have not done, and which I probably need to do. Set up buy a bunch of my books. And the thing about Amazon is you could buy a bunch of author copies, which are like a few bucks, and you can sell those at book signings and whatnot, or if you go to an event where you're speaking. So, it was once the ball got rolling, and once that book got put on Amazon, it was like everything just came to life, and it was a cool moment for me. Yeah, the book, I haven't sold a ton of copies, but people know I'm out there, and I'm happy I can walk around and say, well, I'm a published author. I was able to do this. I survived a brain injury with multiple surgeries, and I was able to write about it and live a good life. And that's pretty much that in a nutshell. Anybody can do it. That's my comment on that.
Now, me, we both have traumatic brain injuries, so maybe together we have a whole brain. But there's some times where I'll be sitting around and talking to my wife, and like we'll be talking about, say, baseball, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the word ball, and I'm just looking at her going, that round thing that we throw around. Do you have lapses of memory at all?
I do. It's gotten worse as I gotten older. So I chalked it up as just age and possibly a lack of sleep. The thing about what you got to understand about brain injury survivors is we're a lot more tired than your average folks. And we tend not to sleep very well. I'm not a very good sleeper. And, now I'm a big guy, I sleep with a sleep apnea machine, and it's been helping me, but still I don't sleep very well. So, that can hinder your memory a lot, not getting enough rest. Believe it, I mean, you were in the fitness industry, you worked at GNC, you owned a GNC or whatever. Is that right? You owned a GNC?
I was a general manager, going to be a partner, and then COVID.
Okay. So you're around the fitness industry, that, with, bodybuilding and, fit, their biggest, anybody going to tell you, first of all, you need to eat right, drink lots of water, and you got to get tons of sleep. If you don't get enough sleep, your body just isn't going to function. So that being said, I struggle with that. So yes, to answer your question in a long-winded answer, yeah, struggling to find the words. It drives me crazy.
Now, because you've been through all the doctors, and you've been through all you actually had a worse injury than myself. What were some of the things that you had to learn to do to kind of get a little bit of normalcy in your life, even though you have a traumatic brain injury? What are some of the things that the listeners can take away from this that they can actually do to help get their memory and their mind back a little bit more?
Well, the rehab that they put me through was extensive. It was like going to school. I had 5 or 6 classes to go to every day. I had PT, I had occupational therapy, I had psych therapy. I had a few other therapies I had to go through. And the good thing about if it's anything good to come out of it, my injury was I had all my wits about me. I didn't have, and I hope I'm not hurting anybody or make it, I don't want to make it sound like I'm making fun of anybody, but I wasn't punch drunk, so to speak, where a lot of people who tend to be slurring their words after a brain injury or talk real slow or kind of monotone. I didn't have any of that. I was lucky. I had almost a full recovery. I mean, obviously, when you've had a brain injury that required surgery, you're gonna miss a few steps here and there. Luckily, all my appendages worked, but I think it was my therapy and just my hard work, man. I remember my first week. I think I was in therapy. I was physical therapy, and I was put. Were just like, Michael, you got to slow down. You're pushing too hard. My first day in PT, I missed all the rest of my classes that I had to go to, all my sessions, because I went back to my room. I was in a wheelchair at the time because I had to rebuild all my muscles. All my muscles were atrophied. They were gone. I couldn't walk. I got in bed and I fell asleep, slept all day because my body was so deprived of any. Had all the narcotics, just trying to flush those out of my body. That it exhausted me. I slept most of the day, and I had my psych care therapist come in and wake me up, and we kind of did a session right there in my bed. For me to tell, because everybody's injury is different. What they're at the end of the day, are never going to get out of bed. But I believe, because I've watched it at the hospital. I was in rehab for almost a month, and I've watched people in there that were pretty badly messed up, and I knew I was sad because I there. But everybody I saw in there increased and improved when I was there. Just about it. I saw that I was sharing a room with, who wasn't going to ever get out of there, was a young man who he got in a car accident. He was a wrestler. His mom talked to me because I was wearing my leather jacket. He was a wrestler, got in a car accident, was paralyzed. I think he was a paraplegic and then had a stroke or something, became a quadriplegic. And they're feeding him, through the stomach. Anyways, there's very few people that really excel. And that was a very rare case. But a lot of the people I saw that were in there were applying themselves, and they had all the best care. And it was amazing to see those people excel. Just like me, they were in a wheelchair and they're playing basketball. So I say, if you're in a situation like that, don't you ever give up. You have to keep fighting. I don't care if it exhausts you till you go into a sleep for a week. You keep applying yourself, because that's all we have left is our inner strength. And you'd be surprised, Richard, you'd be surprised of what self-motivation and a good support group around you can do for a person who's in a bed one moment and, jogging around a track at the hospital the next.
And I love that. One thing is that, I always say that, don't ever give up. because there's always somebody watching you, whether that's a friend, a family member, a child, and people are always watching you and gaining strength from you, even if you don't know it. So how do we find your book and how do we get in touch with you?
So again, Amazon, you go to Amazon and you look up The Heart of the Lion by Michael Ryan. And then to get a hold of me, you can email me, lionryan@hotmail.com, LIONRYAN @hotmail.com. I'm also on Facebook. The Heart of the Lion is also on Facebook. I have a page dedicated to the book. That's also there. You can email me if you ever want to talk personally. Friend me on Facebook or message me through Messenger. You'd be surprised how many people have reached out over the years and said, "Hey, my son's thinking about playing football. What do you think?" That's the toughest one right there, is when parents reach out and they're worried about their kid because, they know what happened to me. That becomes a hard one. And Richard, when I tell people, I said, you get one go around. Live your life to the fullest. Is it fair that you're afraid for your child to keep them from living their dreams? Because I don't blame you either way. I didn't want him playing football. He tried it in high school, and he got banged up a little bit and decided it wasn't for him. That was the best day of my life. So, there you go. I mean, if people are going to reach out to me, I'm going to give them an honest answer. And I would love to speak to any parents who are going through this. I knew a football player in high school, or not in high school. I knew a football player locally who had basically the same type of injury, but he was bedridden. And it's awakening. Let me tell you, he was about 10 years ago. This kid was going places. So, I'm here. If anybody wants to talk about the book, my injury, what I did to get from point A to point B to now, and I'm always available.
All right. Now, the last thing I always talk about an actionable step for the people that are listening, because I am the comeback coach. So we help people that are coming back from all kinds of issues. So, Ryan, Mike, if I say to the average person, I need you to do something in 7 days, because of our busy schedules in life, it'll
Right.
never get done. But if I say to somebody, take an actionable step in the next 24 hours, they're more likely to take it. So if you know somebody that's struggling with the same things that you went through, what is something they can do in the next 24 hours to start to right the ship and to get their head right?
Hard to respond to that, Richard. You kind of put me on the spot here. The next 24
That's
hours.
why I do what I do.
Over the next 24 hours, you got to look at the obstacle you're up against. And you got to kind of build a strategy for yourself. And I don't care if you have your parents with you or your best friend. Start writing things down. Start figuring out how you're going to get over that obstacle. How you're going to get from point A to point B. What it's going to take. That really helps out a lot. That helps me out. If I sit there and say, okay, this is what I did in the hospital. What? I'm glad you brought that up, because when I was in the hospital and I was finally got all the tubes and heart monitors and all the stuff off my body, I was going to rehab. I told my girlfriend that I was dating in high school at the time, I said, I'm going to be out here in a week. It took me 3 weeks, but I got out of there. I said, I'm going to be out of this bed in the next couple of days. Guess what? I was walking around the next day. I was out of the bed and I was walking. Point is, you have to put your mind where you want to go. You have to look at the end result. Okay, if I'm sitting here and I need a strategy to get me from this bed to running around that track, what do I need to get there? Well, first of all, you can't be laying there feeling sorry for yourself that you're in a situation. You have to figure out, okay, I'm here. So what do I do next? Okay, so you start writing things down. Okay, what are my options? Talk to your family. And then just sit there and go, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to take that step forward, because right here are things that I'm planning on doing. You can't procrastinate on it. That's one of the biggest problems with people like myself, who I procrastinate. But if you sit there and say, Mike, tomorrow, I want to see you do X, Y, and Z. Okay, I can see that. I'm going to do that, because I know that it's something that I'm being challenged with. If you're a person that can rise to the occasion, and that's my quote that I sent you.
Yep.
Champions rise to the occasion. And that resonated with me. A poster in the locker room before every game, coach's door. It was a college poster. I don't know who the author was, but it's resonated to me from this day. Champions rise to the occasion. If you're a true champion and you want to get out of the situation you're in, you're going to do anything and everything to excel at that next goal. And it's all about goal setting. It's all about writing these goals down, achieving one at a time, baby steps. And if you know you can accomplish something a lot quicker and you play to your strength, go for it. There's no rules on excelling at your health or your fitness or whatever it is that you're doing in life. There's no, you can't. Of course you can. That's another thing. Never let anybody tell you can't do something, because that becomes a problem, especially for me. I don't like anybody telling me I can't do something, because then I just turn around and prove you wrong. So there you go. I hope that answered your question.
I love that, brother. Yeah. And, and I want to thank our friend Mark Dudek. He's got an amazing book about CSD hardscaping, about how hardscaping can improve your home, and also things you can do to save money, but also build equity in your home. So check his book out. I want to thank Mark for introducing us. We've been friends for years, and I'm so grateful for your friendship, brother.
Yeah, I've known Mark since I was 5 years old, man. Mark's a great guy. He's a giver. And thank you for having me, Richard.
You're welcome, brother. This is going to go out probably next week, and I'll tag you when it is. It's going to go out on all my platforms, and I'm so grateful for you to take the time, brother.
Oh, you're breaking up on me.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, brother. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Absolutely, Richard. You take care. Thanks again.
I love you, brother.
Love you. Bye-bye.